Okay, so I'm going to take simple one scenario. Okay, let's suppose we have one API. Okay, so it's the API means which we are getting from external system, means outside the Salesforce. Okay, we have Salesforce. Okay, so what I'm doing, okay, I'm going to send the request to the external system. Okay, from Salesforce going to call the external system, and action system is providing this API. Okay, so going to hit this API. What I want the data which are available in this API. Okay. Whatever the data are available in this API, I want that data. Okay, means I want the response from which from the API, or you can say from action system. Okay, so first I want to know which type of integration is it.
Yeah, outbound integration, sir.
According to Naman, outbound. Other participants,
Outbound integration.
according to Chan, outbound integration. Okay, Devans,
So from the Salesforce setting the external system. Like
okay, what I'm
getting
doing, I am performing some operation on Salesforce, okay, and sending the request from Salesforce to the action system and want the data from action system. Okay, whenever I'll hit the request from Salesforce, so I want the data from action system. It's the API. Okay, so from this API, I want the data in Salesforce. So which type of integration it will inbound, outbound.
Outbound.
Okay, according to Preeti ma'am, outbound. Why it will be outbound?
sir, it is inbound. So we are
According
getting the data from the external system.
according to Devans, it's inbound. Am I correct, Devans?
Yes,
Sir,
sir.
we are getting the data or sending the data?
We are getting the data from Excel system. What I'm doing, I am initiating the request from Salesforce to the Excel system. Okay, Excel system is providing one API. Okay, so in API, some data are available. So from API, I'm taking the data, then displaying it in Salesforce. So which type of integration? Is it outbound or inbound?
Outbound.
Okay, according to Preeti ma'am, outbound. Devans,
It's an inbound.
okay. Chan and Naman,
Yes, sir. Outbound only.
outbound only. Chan,
Outbound.
yes. So Devans,
नहीं नहीं इनबाउंड ही होगा आई थिंक.
okay. Why it will be inbound?
Inbound, like I think Salesforce is a receiver.
Salesforce is a receiver. एक बार
Receiver को
डेफिनेशन
inbound.
डेफिनेशन पढ़ोगे जो मैंने कल लिखवाए थे आउटबाउंड और इनबाउंड की.
डेफिनेशन कुछ है ही नहीं, मैंने स्क्रीनशॉट वगैरह कुछ नहीं लिया.
Okay, Devans. Okay, let me go to the outbound and inbound. What is outbound? Salesforce sending some request to action system. That is outbound. So in this scenario, who is sending the request? Salesforce or Action System?
Salesforce.
Salesforce.
So it will be outbound or inbound?
Sir, out.
Out.
Yes. Okay, we are sending the request. Then we'll get the response. Okay. From Action System, we'll get the response. Okay. So how we'll check the outbound or inbound integration? On the basis of request, not on the basis of response. Okay, guys, please don't check it on the basis of response. Don't check it. If data is coming in Salesforce, so it is inbound. No. Okay, don't check it on the basis of response. Please check it on the basis of request. Okay. Sometimes we also send the data in request. Whenever we will, you can say whenever we will initiate the request and we need some data from API. So we will also send the data. Okay. Which type of data do you want? So it will be the outbound. We are sending some data also along with request. Okay. So check it with the help of request, not on the basis of response. All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it's the outbound integration. Okay. So it's the public, you can say API. Okay. Let's suppose I'm going to take one public API. Okay. Let me copy it. This one I'm going to take. And check is it public or not. Yes. Some data are available. So I have one public API which I'm going to use. So what I'm doing, I'm going to write the code. Okay. Going to write the code. So clicking on setup and developer console. Okay. Going to create one class that is, you can say, Grofia REST callout. One. Okay, so I have created one class. So Salesforce to Action System. Okay. So if you have to send the request, okay, if you are initiating the request from Salesforce to Action System, okay, what can you do? You can use REST callout. Okay, first option is REST callout. You can. How can we use REST callout? I'm going to tell you. Okay. So inside the class, what I'm doing, going to create one method. So public static. Okay, method should be any type of method you can create. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to write some important code of REST callout. Okay. Code, basic code for REST callout. So this code will be common in every Apex class in which you are going to write the logic for REST callout. Okay. So first what I'm doing, let's check it. from Salesforce, we are sending the request. Okay. First, we are initiating the request. So what code will you write? HTTP request. So there is one predefined class, HTTP request, in which you can store the request type of information. So going to create one instance for the HTTP request. Okay. So whenever we will do the request, okay, whenever we'll do the request. So from which API we need data? Okay, from which API we need data? So we have to pass the API name. Okay, I'm sending the request, and from which API, from which external system you need data. Okay, so we have to pass the endpoint URL. So set endpoint. So set endpoint is the method inside the HTTP request class. Okay. So here you can pass the API name, or you can say endpoint URL. All right, going to save. Okay. Second method, in which form you want the response. Okay. So like you have to pass JSON. Okay. So content type, it should be JSON. So in set header, you have to pass two string type of parameter. First is content type, second is JSON form. Application slash JSON. So always it will be always set header will be content type and application slash JSON. Okay. First is okay, endpoint URL, then in which format, then third. Okay, which method? Okay, third you have to pass the method. Like from endpoint URL, you want the data. From Excel system, do you want the data or not? Or do you want to send the data in Excel system? Or do you want to delete the data in Excel system? So what do you want to do? Okay, so which operation you want to perform? So that you have to write. Okay, so request dot set method. You have to pass the method. Okay, so first what I'm doing, I want the data from Excel system. So I'm writing set method. So here we can write get, post, patch, delete. This type of method we can write. Okay, so this time I want data. Let's suppose if you are using the post method, so you will send the data also. So that time you will add one line of extra code, that is set code. Okay, in body you will pass the data which you want to send to the Excel system. Okay, so in JSON form you will pass the data like that. If you are using post method, but we are not using post method, we are using get method. So in get, it's optional, means it's not mandatory. We don't need to add it. But if you are using any other method, that time you need to add it. Okay. So you have to remember this 4 line of code if you want to do REST callout. Okay.
Sir, can you please let us know the use of this set header also one more time?
Set header.
Yes, sir.
Like, okay, set header means if we are initiating the request and we are sending the data to the action system, okay, in which form it should be.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Whenever we will do the request, in which form we are sending the data. Okay, so we are sending the data in JSON. It's the main use.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm initiating the request. Okay, request what I want get. I'm using get method means need response from this API. Okay, so let me pass this endpoint URL also. Okay, so it's the public endpoint URL or public API. Okay, so public API I'm passing. Going to save. Okay. So guys, now what I have to do, I have to send the request. Okay. So request code I have created, but now I have to send the request to external system. So to send the request to the external system, we use HTTP class. So I'm going to create one instance for the HTTP class. Okay. To send the request, we use HTTP class. Without HTTP class, we can't send the request. Okay. So I have created this instance. Now what I'm doing, going to send the request. Request information are in this variable RE. Okay. So HTTP object dot send request. So whenever I'll send the request, okay, whenever I'll send the request to this API, what will I get? I'll get the response. Okay, I'll get the response. So now what I have to do, I have to store the response somewhere else. Okay, so where we can store the response? Okay, for that we have one class that is HTTP response. Okay, similar to HTTP request, we have one predefined class in Salesforce that is HTTP response. Okay, so in HTTP response, we can store it. So why HTTP class? I'm sending the request. I'll get the response from API, and that response I'm storing in this variable. Okay. Now what I'm doing, I'm going to debug this code. I'm going to check what response I'm getting. Am I getting the response or not? Okay. Going to check it. If I'm getting the response, then what response? So it's the, you can say, we have a static method. Okay. So for static method, we don't need to create the instance for the class. Directly we can call it class name dot method name. Okay. So what I'm doing, I'm running this method code. Okay. Sending the request to this endpoint URL. Okay. And want the response. Storing the response, then displaying it. And let me clear the debug log also. Clear. So clicking on execute button. So when I'll click on execute button, so maybe I'll get the error message. Okay. So guys, here you can see I'm getting one congratulations message. Okay. Unauthorized endpoint. Okay. So why I'm getting this message?
Sir, because sir, it is not verified the our endpoint URL. So you have to store in the remote site setting. You have to store the end URL in the remote site setting.
Yes. Good. So remember one thing. Okay. If what I'm doing, I'm running this code and getting some error message. Okay, please store this endpoint URL somewhere else. Okay. So what you have to remember, you have to remember one name, that is icon. Okay. One word you have to remember, that is icon. I for inbound. Okay. O for outbound. Okay. So if you are using inbound integration, okay, so you need to authorize it, or you can say you need to authenticate the action system. How can you do it? With the help of connected app. Okay. In inbound, what we use to link the action system, or you can say to authenticate the action system, connected app. But if it is outbound, what will you use? Named credential slash remote site set. Okay. So what I'm doing, if I'm running this code, unauthorized and unauthorized endpoint. Okay. So first I have to authorize the endpoint URL. Okay. Which endpoint URL I'm passing? This one. I have to authorize it. Okay. So which type of integration is it? It's the outbound. For outbound, what we use named credential and remote site setting. Okay. So which one we will use? Named credential or remote site setting this time? Okay. So if we have public API, so always we will go with remote site setting. Okay. If we have private API, so we will go with named credential. Okay. So in remote site setting, no authentication is required. But in name credential, authentication is required. Okay. So guys, it's a outbound integration. Okay. So if you want to authorize the endpoint URL, so you have two options, remote site setting and name credential. But I am saying we have public API. Okay. We have public API. So for public API, what can we do? We can go with remote site setting. We don't need to do the authentication in public API. Okay. So now what I'm doing, going with remote site setting. Okay. So going to open the Salesforce. Okay. And clicking on setup and going to create one remote site setting. Enter the remote site setting here. Okay. Click on new remote site setting button. Write any name. Rest, Callout. Uh, Rest Callout remote setting one. Okay. Going to paste the endpoint URL here. And going to save it. Okay. So if you want to put complete URL, you can put it, else you can write this one also. Going to save it. Okay. Now again going to execute this code and I'll check code will be executed or not. Successfully I'm able to execute this code, clicking on debug only and checking the data. Okay. So what I'm getting system.http response. The status is okay. Okay. And status code 200. So I'm not getting 400 code, 500 code. Means I'm not getting error code. What I'm getting success code. 200 means status is okay, success. Okay. Now what I want the data, okay, which are available in response. So what can I do? I can use one method, that is get code. After this debug, response dot get code. Okay. So whatever the data are available, that data I'm going to display it. Again, going to debug this code, clicking on debug only. Okay, and you can see. HTTP response, okay. And what data response I'm getting? ID1, name, username, email address. Okay, I'm getting the data. So guys, do you have any doubt in this code? How can we do the REST callout?
So can you please show that response and response get body, those both people?
Okay, it's the response. In response, we will get the status only, like okay, error,
Okay,
failed,
okay,
and
okay.
all. If you want more data, then use some method.
Okay, sir. Okay. Okay.
For request,
Good
one line,
afternoon. Can
four
you give
line
me,
of yes, yes, yes. Please go ahead, Jen.
yeah, I'm saying, can you give me a quick recap? So I missed the 5 minute session.
Okay, so my scenario was okay, how can we connect the how can we send the data from Salesforce to Action System? Okay, Salesforce to Action System. If we are initiating the request from Salesforce to Action System, how can we do it? Okay, how can we integrate it? Okay, so it's the outbound integration. For outbound integration, we can go with REST callout. Okay, so
Okay.
we'll use outbound integration here. In outbound integration, what we use? Connected app, name credential, or remote site setting. Okay, how can you remember it? With the help of icon, you can remember. Okay, I is for inbound. After I, then they see. So in inbound integration, always we will create the connected app. But if we are talking about outbound integration, we will use named credential or remote site setting. Okay, it will depend on which type of API we have. If it is a public API, so we can go with remote site setting. We don't need authentication. Okay, we don't need to give the security. There's no security available on public API. So we can go with remote site setting. If it is a private API, that time we will go with name credentials. Okay. So first what we are doing, we are initiating the request. Okay. How we will write the code for request, create one request class, HTTP request equal to new HTTP request. Okay. So in request, you will pass the endpoint URL, means from which action system you want to connect, pass the header in which form you will send the data. If you will send it, which method, what do you want to perform? So I'm using get method. I want the data from API. Okay. I'll get the response. So to store the response, I've created response class. Okay. So whenever you will send the request, so for that, you need HTTP class. So I created one HTTP class